AI coding tools are magic until you point them to real repos. Because then they would start blind grepping hundreds of files, burning tokens, and giving you generic answers because they never see the whole picture. Well, today I'm going to use this thing called Graphify. It turns any code base into a knowledge graph that your AI can query. So instead of reading everything, it pulls exactly the piece that it needs. It is free and local and works with almost any harnesses like Claude Code, Gemini, Codex, and Cursor. By the end of this video, I will install it. I'll teach you the 3 concepts you would need and also add a new feature to our existing repo, a repo that I have never even opened in my life. Alright, with that said, with this context set, let's start building it. Of this video, in order to show you the full potential of Graphify, we need a sample repo. I've used this Uno Platforms repo called Uno Chef. Okay, now this is a humongous code base. It is a Win UI application built in C# and .NET. I'm going to use this for this video. But what I'm going to show you does not only employs to a C# or .NET repo, it applies to any code base that you have, be it in any language. In fact, Graphify works across 36 programming languages and a lot more frameworks and SDKs. Okay, so I'm going to clone this and I've made this new folder called Graphify test. I'm going to open my git bash over here and I'm going to clone this. Okay, so the clone is successful, and why I said humongous is because it is about 535 MBs of code base. Pretty huge actually. Alright, I'm going to open VS Code over here, and this is the VS Code window that I've got. Now I'm going to open the terminal and I'm going to open Claude over here. Alright, so now if you see, I have used 0% of my context, and just to be 100% sure, I'm going to use this. Have a look at the context that this Claude Code might give me. Okay, so I'm nearly clean or almost clean on my context. I'm going to escape. All right, now I'm going to ask Claude Code a few things about this new code base that I've just downloaded. Okay, but before I actually do it, I want to run this application once so that you can have a look at what this application is about. So I'm going to say run, build and run the app. All right, so the app is running now, and if you look over here, it has already used 5% of my context and it is still doing it. Okay, so now it says the app is running and it has used around 6% of my context. That includes, now that has taken up around 57,000 tokens of my 1 million context. Okay, now let me show you the app. Now this is what the app looks like. This is how the pages change. I'm going to skip this and let me just log in. Okay, so now this in overall is how the app looks. So it is, as the name suggests, it is a chef application, and there are different dishes that they have told us about. It says if you click on one of the dishes, it will give you the ingredient, the steps, the reviews and the nutrition content, and then same way you can keep coming down, and then there is also this popular contributors. Okay, so pretty nice, decent app, and this is what it gives us. Okay, now we have had a look of what this app is all about. Okay, let me close this. Okay, so my Claude Code is still doing something. I'll let it happen and we'll come back. Okay, so yeah, it is done now. All right, now let me ask Claude Code something about this code base. Okay, so I'm going to ask, explain how the recipe details page fetches its data from the API. Now just have a closer look at what Claude is going to do. Now it has started burning tokens like anything, you see, and it is grepping through all the files that it can find the related keywords into. So you see all these files that you see over here, it is going to use or read across all of them, and that will start burning my tokens like anything. So it has already consumed around 1.7k tokens and still burning, and still it has not had a clue about what part it should look into. Now if you want, you can hit Ctrl O to expand it, and these are all the files that it has figured out that it should look into. It has read 197 lines, these many lines everywhere. Okay, so now finally it has come up with the answers, and let me hit Ctrl O again and we are back. Okay, so now it has used up 8% of my token, which is around 80,000 or roughly 81,000 over here. Cool. And now it has figured out all the answers, and you know, at this level level where we have not really added any context to my Claude code, you ask the same question using any AI agent, it is going to produce approximately the same kind of response because we have not really set any context. And this is a very generic problem. Every day you come across code bases where you have to start working on without any context, and you just start querying any LLM for whatever questions you might have, resulting in very generic responses. Okay, so even then it has not figured out the entire thing. It is still asking me if I want to trace the right path to or open this JSON to show the actual shape of what mock returns. Okay, now let's have a look at one more thing. Let's look at the cost. Okay, so now if you see, the total cost that was incurred for this query was around $1.50. All right, let me escape. Alright, so now it's time to install Graphify. Now this is the official repo of Graphify, and if you look over here, it has been forked around 8,000 times and it is already having 82,000 stars on the GitHub. Now if you come further down, you would see this really cool looking graph over here. Now just don't worry about that. We will generate a similar node graph for our code base and understand what this actually means. What are these nodes? What are these edges that we are seeing, and what are communities? Alright. Now setting this up for your repo is pretty easy. If you are using the UV tool, you can use this command, and if you are on the pip kind of thing, you can use this command over here. I'm going to copy this command and I'm going to come back to my VS Code and come to bash mode and install it here. You see it has started installing a lot of things, and this will take a little while. Now once this is installed, you shall come back to your repo, and the next thing that you need to do is that register this Graphify with your AI assistant. So I'm going to copy this and come back to my VS Code and hit this command over here. Alright, so this is also done, and just come back to this Graphify repo. We would run this command in a while, but before that we also need to set up Graphify to be used along with Claude Code. So if you come further down, you will see this how to use Graphify with Claude Code. So I'm going to copy this and I'm going to paste this over here. Now this should have been gone into the shell mode as a shell command, but that's fine. Claude should be able to figure it out. Okay, so now it says it is already installed before because we already registered it with the AI assistant. So I believe that is done. Okay, so now once that is done, we go back to the repo and now we need to run this command, hit enter. So now it says I'm going to build a knowledge graph of this repo. Let me start with the setup and file detection. I'm going to say yes. Now this is still working, but I wanted to show you something. So if you see here, it has come up with this thing called how much is the corpus in this repo. So it is saying there are 235 code files, 75 documents, 138 images and 1 video. Now Graphify out of the box can process code and documents, but for images and video, it will require a Gemini key. So if you want, you can include that, but I'm not going to do it because I want everything to sit in my local. I do not want any image or video processing to be done for this code base, so I'm not going to put that. Now it is asking me which scope should Graphify build the knowledge graph on. The main app plus the API project, the whole repo. So I'm going to choose this option 4, which says code only with no documents and images. So I'm going to hit enter. Now this is still not done, but I'm going to read something to you. Now it is extracting something. Now consider this as the graph data structure that you would see. Now a graph would have nodes and edges. So this is how it is building up the tree for our repo. It is saying it has identified around 1600 nodes, some 2700 edges. Okay, so this is how it has started building the graph for us. Now I'll still let it run. Now once it is done, you would know that it has parsed every file. It has extracted every possible symbol in your code base. It has also resolved all the references and built them all into a graph. And if you want to look at this graph, you can come to this new folder called Graphify out, expand that, and you would see this graph.html. Now I'm going to open this in the browser, and this is how my repo looks like now. All right, now before we move forward and build something using Graphify, it's important we understand how to understand this graph. On the very right hand side, we see several communities listed over here. Now each of this community has got a separate color. What's important here is that a community is a term of the graph data structure. Now you can call it cluster, you can call it hub, but what's important over here is that each community is built of several other nodes into it. Okay, so if you zoom in further, let's talk about this particular community over here. It has got a few nodes over here. Right? Each of this node is connected by a line, and that is called an edge. So it is a bridge between the two nodes. Now, there could be multiple communities. Let's say if this blue one is for the recipe service and this green one is for the filter model. If you see, this community is connected to this community via this edge over here. All right. Now, there is another important term over here called the degree. Now, higher the degree means that area of your code is connected to several other nodes. So if you talk about this node over here, you see the degree is quite high because it is connected to several other nodes over here. And if you hover over one of the edges, it will tell you what is the dependency that is being used. So this iRecipe service is referencing this get favorite with pagination. Okay, so this is how the graph can be understood on a very high level. Now think of it like this. If you didn't had this, Claude Code is going to grep through all the files. It is going to look for patterns across multiple files, and then it is going to generate your answer. But now that it knows that iRecipe service references this get favorite with pagination, traveling your code base becomes pretty easy and fast. Now that we have understood how to read this graph with this iRecipe service in mind, let's go back to our Claude Code, and I'm going to say Graphify explain iRecipe service. I'm going to say Graphify explain iRecipe service and hit enter. Now just keep an eye on this token count. 14% is what it has been used. All right, so this query has given us now the results, and if you look over here, it says 21 method that this declares. It is also telling me how many things are consuming it, how many parts of the code are actually referencing this service, and what the graph reveals. We should also see the degree somewhere. It has got 33 degrees, so quite a heavy traffic area, I believe this is. Now, if I were to change anything into this iRecipe service, I'll be very cautious because it has got a high degree. Now, this has got just one implementation. So the iRecipe service is an interface, and this is the concrete class for that. And what the graph reveals, iRecipe service sits between them as the only thing either side names. That's why it has the degree 33 despite being a plain interface. It is a bridge, not a leaf. So my understanding is reading this that iRecipe service is kind of an intermediary system between the two communities. Now you can read further more on this. Okay, so one more thing before we move forward, the command that I gave it was Graphify explain iRecipe service. Now if you recall, we had already registered Graphify with Claude, so you need not explicitly say Graphify explain. You can just ask Claude to explain this, and it should use Graphify to traverse your code base. Now I'm going to say query me the highest degree node in the code base or in the repo. Now see that I have not really used the term Graphify over here, but my understanding is that Claude Code should be able to pick up Graphify automatically. Okay, so Claude has come back and it has showing me. Now you see, I don't really told it to use Graphify, but Graphify and the degree. I mean, degree is a concept of this Graphify tool, right? But Claude was able to pick that, and it has told me how many are the highest degree nodes that I have and which community it lives in and where is the namespace for that. Quite cool actually. It will help me to make better decisions when I'm fixing the bug, when I'm adding a new feature and whatnot. And also you look that my answers are now pretty fast. It just took 26 seconds to generate me the answer. So Claude is not reading the entire repo every time you ask something. You notice that we have not really added any context or a claude.md file to this repo. What is happening is Graphify instead is handing over a little piece of graph to the Claude Code, and I think that is the whole trick here. Okay, so now let me show you another cool feature of the node or of the graph that we have generated. Let's come back, and over here I'm going to search for my app app XAML host. I'm going to hit enter and it has zoomed me into this node over here. Now if I click it, it is going to show me all the possible nodes that are there that are connected to this app XAML host here. Now we don't really have to worry about how this node is working or how this graph is working, because Claude, it is for the AI code assistants just to make their travel across the code base easier. Alright, so now we are going to test what happens when we query Claude Code once with Graphify and the other time without Graphify. Alright, so I've got a non-trivial query. Now what I'm asking it to give me a complete map of how a recipe would flow from database to the UI, listing every file and the class that is involved. So because we already have the Graphify out folder, it should be able to pick up the Graphify graph and figure out the best possible answer to this. Let's see. So now it is saying that the Graphify skill has been loaded and it should now use that graph to generate this answer for me. So now it says the the graph already exists. Let me query it directly. Pretty straightforward. Alright, so the result has come up. It has user around 64,000 tokens, used up around 6% of my context window, and this took around 2 minutes and 10 seconds for this operation to be done. Now, I'm going to make a node of this thing and I'm going to, also add this was with Graphify and it took around 2 minutes and 10 seconds. Cool. Now, I'm going to clear the context again. I'm going to rename this folder and I'm going to call it graphifyout.bak. So now because I've renamed it, Claude Code will not be able to find out any of the Graphify code maps or any of the context that Graphify would have set for this repo. And I've also cleared the context, so we are back again at 0% with zero of the context window used. And I'm going to give it the same question again. And this time it should not be able to find out the Graphify thing. So it says I will trace the recipe data flow directly through the code base. And now because it is doing that, the reason being the Graphify is not available to this. So we let it run. Alright, so we have now got the results and I can say that there is some difference to it. Now, we used 7% when we were not using the Graphify thing and it used around 68 or 69,000 tokens. If you look at the previous results when we did it with Graphify, it took just 6%. The token count was around 4,000 less tokens, around 64%, around 64,000 tokens. The question that we asked actually was a kind of trivial questions. So the difference that we see is not like 10x, but yes, there is some difference, and the more non-trivial your questions are, the Graphify is going to produce a better results all the time. Now, this number that we just saw, this number and the difference without the Graphify, this number will scale based on the size of your code base. Mono repos, people are reporting 40 to 50% of lesser token usages. Now multiply this number with the number of prompts that you send this week. Alright, so now the real test. This is the Uno Chef's application. I'm going to add a new feature to this without knowing what is there, what is not. Okay. What I'm planning is that if someone opens this recipe, we should get a button to add these ingredients to a grocery list. Okay. Now this should be combined across all the recipes that we have, because this feature I think will make it perfect for a meal planning if you are, preparing this recipe at home. Alright. Now I have absolutely no idea where any of this code actually lives that can do this. So let's get back to our VS Code. I've cleared the context and I'm going to put this prompt over here. And I've also renamed my graphifyout.bak to graphifyout. So it should be able to figure out the graphs that we have. I'm going to hit enter to this prompt and let's see what happens. Alright, so the edits are done. It took around 5 minutes or roughly around 6 minutes to build this feature. Consumed around 10% of my context window with around 100,000 tokens. Pretty cool. But while it was running, I noticed that it is looking for the patterns from the graph that we had built, that the Graphify had built, and it was not scanning the entire code base for how to add services to my DI container and the other thing. Alright, now this is a brief summary of what it has created and what are the edits it has done, but I'm not not going to go through all of that. I'm just going to ask it to run this application so we can actually test what it has built. Okay, so the application has come up. Let me skip this. Let me log in and let's click on this recipe over here. And over here, if you see, we have added this view grocery list. Let me click this, but it is empty right now. Now, how do we add it? Okay, so I think it has not added this feature or added this step to how to add this ingredient to the grocery list. Okay, so yes, it is there. So now if you are on a recipe and you open this view grocery list, I think it will bring the grocery list of this recipe. Pretty cool. So now if I open another recipe, let's say salmon tomato, and these are the 4 ingredients: spinach, rosemary, tomatoes, and let's go to grocery list. And yes, so all the 4 items or all the 4 ingredients from that are there. Now let me choose one of it. Now I've chosen 3, or let's just choose one of it, salt and pepper. Let's go back to home and let's choose a different recipe. Let's go back to the grocery list. The salt and pepper is there. Okay, so yeah, I think it has pretty much added the new feature. There are a few issues I can figure out, but yes, it has kind of built it. We can of course go and prompt it again and again to make it even more flawless and seamless. Now we have done that. So far so good. Now one important thing over here, after you have edited the code, your code base has changed. So we need a way to update the Graphify also. We need the new code to be added to our graph that Graphify had built. So in order to do that, I'm going to say Graphify update dot. What this is going to do, this is going to add the new nodes or the bridges in the new to the existing graph that we had. So now if you look at this message, it says the user wants to incrementally re-index the new grocery list files into the graph. Alright, so it has now added the new grocery list feature into our graph, and you see it has given me this confirmation feature confirmed in the graph, grocery item this, and it has also told me that this new feature reads through 4 communities: service, model, view model, and the page. That looks correct to me. Okay, so now it has added this and it says new nodes 55, new edges 83, and the total nodes in the graph are now these many with these edges and these many communities. Cool. Now let's go back to our graph again. Let me hit refresh and let me search for grocery actually. So yeah, grocery is present now, and let's look at the grocery item, and it is able to tell me that this is the grocery item things that it has added. Let me hit that and we would see that this is how it is being related here. I think this is the cluster. Now let's again do a search for grocery one more time, and let's look for the grocery list service, and this is my grocery list service. Pretty cool. Okay, so now we have seen how Graphify works. The pitch here is simple. If you are using Claude Code, Codex, Gemini, or Cursor, or any AI coding assistant, or any AI coding tool on a real code base, you are actually leaving speed and money on the table by not using a knowledge graph like this. Graphify is free. It's local. Just takes 2 commands to install. The link is in the description. Comment below and tell me what will be the weirdest feature that you would add to an app that you have never seen in your entire life. Alright, so now if you like this video, hit the like button, subscribe to my channel so you don't miss the new video, and I'll see you in the next one.